The pressure inside the car was increasing with speed, and the doors were opening enough to get the switch that had the light to turn on, and then it would close. Because the light would go on and it would turn off. And it would light what is going on? Last year was a tough year for me, for reasons we won't go into. And sometimes during those times, you need to get out and do something. And you need to do something that you don't plan, that you just participate. And my trip to Alaska with the Sway guys was one amazing getaway that happened. The other one that happened was going and doing my 13th cannonball with the US Express. Ed Bolian calls, and when he calls, you answer, that he wanted me to come with him on that adventure. And I was like, okay, great. What are we doing? And he's like, let me put this out there for you. Rolls Royce. And I'm like, okay, I'm interested. He's all, sheiks in the Rolls Royce. I'm like, okay, getting better. He's like, and we'll just do the race kind of Jamie Farr style from the movie, and we're going to get a Rolls Royce and make it happen. Now, I've owned some older Rolls Royces, and they're not great cars. They are studies in deferred maintenance. And I'm like, well, we need to find a good one to make sure this happens. And then, of course, in my mind, I'm like, and in chic outfits. I'm like, how's this going to play? Like, I actually had to ask a lot of my friends, I'm like, is this racist? Like, to dress as sheiks? How will this be perceived? Halloween, you get dressed up like a Native American. That's cultural appropriation. Like, am I culturally appropriating Arabs? Like, and I live in California. Things are much more sensitive there about that. And I'm like, most people was interesting if you said, if I dressed up like someone from China, they'd be like, yeah, that's not a great idea. And I'm like, dressed up like a Native American? No, that's not such a great idea. I dress up like an Arab. They're like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'm like, that's an interesting delineation. Okay. Then my other fear was like, we go across the middle of America dressed as sheiks. Not that anybody's going to confuse my fair complexion with an actual person from the Middle East. But, you know, cannonball is about risk, and especially if you're going to do your 13th cannonball, you might as well keep it exciting. So why not? Ed ordered some great outfits, and all we needed to do was find the car. Ed sent a few, and I tried to give my advice, and he had a few looked at. And, you know, they have these hydraulic systems in them that were borrowed from Citroën that ran the rear suspension. And they also run the brakes, and they operate at like 3,500 PSI. And there's a massive pump on the engine, and it's got like a 2-gallon reservoir next to the engine. You have to keep filled with this special fluid. And what most people do after years of owning them and don't care, they end up filling them not with special fluid, but with whatever they can find. And that ruins the system. And all of those systems have to be rebuilt, like usually every about 12 years. And nobody can afford that because it's about 10 grand to do it, especially if you bought your old Rolls Royce for 10 grand. So we had to find something that at least operated pretty well. And then Ed stumbles upon a fantastic example. Literally like a one family owned Rolls that had been sitting for a few years. I think it was the grandfather took on world tours with it. Like he would fly it. He flew it to the Middle East to take a tour. He flew to the Pacific Rim and took a tour in it. Like he took it all over the world. And obviously somebody like that is going to take care of their car, even though it had been sitting for a few years and the family was ready to let it go. And the price was reasonable. And so Ed's like, I'm going to pull the trigger on this one. Now this car hasn't moved an inch in 5 years or something like that. And Ed, like at night, goes out to this place and picks it up. And he's like, he calls me. It was late my time in California, so I don't even know what it was, like midnight his time. And he's all like, I got the car. I'm like, great. He's like, yeah, I'm driving through the dark in North Carolina on a 2-lane road. I'm like, yeah. He goes, and there were a couple batteries in the trunk. I'm like, a couple of batteries in the trunk? He's like, yep. I'm like, that doesn't bode well. Usually if you have a couple batteries, it means one of them is bad. He's like, yeah, it's running right now. I'm like, well, whatever you do, don't turn it off. Because if it's running, let it keep running. So he drove and he stopped, and I think it did die, and he had to swap batteries. But he made it home, and it made its first trip. And he's like, so he took it out, and he had his guys go through it. He dumped a few $1,000 into it, which is very easy to do in an old Rolls Royce, and got it operational. This is a right-hand drive car, which I love right-hand drive cars. And usually those are a little bit cheaper than the left-hand drive cars in the US, but you'll find out in a second why I like them. He got it, and it wasn't the white car from the movie. It was a two-tone car, actually beautiful looking in person, and a really nice interior. And things seemed to work in it, like operation. The windows went up and down, and electronics work, and headlights, all of them turned on all at the same time. He's like, all right, fly out and meet me in New Jersey, and we'll get ready, and then we'll head off for the US Express. Having run a bunch of cross-country runs, it's exhausting and just tiring and wears on you mentally to do all of that. To just show up is such an unusual thing for me. And I just flew in. Ed had taken care of everything. It was marvelous. And our third was Trevin from Sway, and this would be his first Cannonball, and not a bad deal for him, really. He's got two of the biggest Cannonball veterans on the planet. He's going to get to run with us, so he had a great time. And we met, we saw all the other guys, all the great cars. Fantastic event that was put on. The next concern is, will an ancient Rolls Royce make it across the country? Now, I'd used one of those for Top Gear. I'd used one of those for a couple of shoots, and none of them were good. And none of them lasted. And I'm like, we're going to drive across almost 3,000 miles. And Ed's all, yep. I'm like, okay, let's do it. We hopped in, we put on our chic outfits, and off across the country we go. Now, very tame actual start, which I was surprised that we had the restraint. The first few legs, we actually weren't trying to go terribly fast because we're in an old Rolls Royce. Our thought was, we'll go first, and people will pass us, and we'll take pictures of all the crazy guys blowing by us in their crazy cars. And that's what we'll do. And that'll be the fun thing, is you catch the Rolls Royce and pass us, and we'll just kind of have a good old time going across. Well, the Rolls was relatively reliable and started going a little faster. Maybe a little faster. Maybe people weren't catching us anymore. And by the time we got halfway across the country, there's something that happens halfway across. And I think what Ed did his record run, when they got halfway across and they realized their time, they really went for it. And it was kind of the same thing. We're like, we're not doing too bad. We started picking up the pace into alleged speeds. A Rolls Royce, I don't believe, was ever designed to get into, in Mexico, of course, triple digits. But when it does, if it did, allegedly, what happened at night was Ed was driving, and it's kind of weird to be the passenger in a right-hand drive car going quickly, because you instinctually start grabbing at the dashboard, because when things happen, you're the driver, right? You're here, and it took halfway across the country to get that out of your hands to kind of relax. So it's relaxing, the car's picking up speed, and the dome light starts turning on and off. And I'm thinking, oh, it's, of course, Lucas Electronics, right, or whatever. But it wasn't. Under a closer observation, the pressure inside the car was increasing with speed, and the doors were opening enough to get the switch that had the light to turn on, and then it would close. Because the light would go on and it would turn off. And it would what is going on? The car was insanely quiet and comfortable. So you didn't hear rattling going on that would give you an indication. They just politely, in a very British way, just kind of opened, a little bit of whistling, and the light would come on and they'd go back. And it was right around, those speeds that it would happen. We were like, okay, well, I guess that's what it does. And there wasn't any fixing it or jamming towels in there. We just drove it. And the car ran beautifully. We had, I think, a loose lug nut. The center cap that covers, the dust cap that covers the bearing on the front came inside the hubcap, made some noise. It consumed quite a bit of fluids. If it had been sitting in one place, it might have made a mess, let's say. So we just spread that mess across 3,000 miles. A few quarts of oil, maybe a case. A few quarts of the special fluid for the hydraulic system, maybe a case of that as well. But you wouldn't know, other than pouring it in, that anything was happening. It ran smooth and quiet. Usually I have my sound canceling headphones in when I do the crossing to kind of keep, or earplugs in to kind of keep the vibration out. And you really didn't even need them in this car. This was the most comfortable crossing I've ever made. And I would do it again. I'm like, if the Queen had to do a cannonball, this was it. You just sat in that back seat with all the room and the cushion and the smells of a British car, and Jeeves driving in the right-hand side. It was magnificent, absolutely magnificent. Now, why do I like a right-hand drive Rolls Royce in this particular usage? Well, the reason is, and you don't think about this until you get a right-hand drive vehicle out on American highways, and you might be going at a certain clip of speed. But when you are in the passing lane, you're on the right-hand side, and you can see through the cars. Now, traditionally, when you are speeding, not that we were speeding, you need the spotter on the right-hand side to look around trucks, to get through traffic. You don't need that person anymore. You are that person. Essentially, you're sitting on a two-lane, which is most of what we were running, two-lane highways. You're in the middle. You see everything you need. Everybody can go to sleep because you don't need a spotter. You don't need anything. It really changes it completely. And the rest of the time you're driving it, once you get used to it, you don't notice it. But driving, hustling through traffic, it is the ultimate weapon that nobody knows about. Now we start getting west and the speeds start picking up even more. And the rotation would be that I was in the back seat. I forget who was driving. I think Ed was driving, I was sleeping, or Trevor was in the front. I forget what the rotation was. And I remember being asleep and hearing like, a little faster. How fast are you going? I'm like, what's going on? And I kind of sit up, and allegedly, I may have seen on the GPS, I may have seen it, I may be wrong, 124 miles an hour in a Rolls Royce, which I don't think was ever designed. I don't think the creators ever drove it that fast. I don't think there's enough room in England, because you have to, it's a long way to get up to speed for that 6,000-pound car. But once it's moving, that inertia, let's keep going. And we trucked it across the western half. We came across New Mexico and Arizona and California, and we're like, you know what? We're doing this. Like, this is a real time. And we're going to beat quite a few cars, which I wholly expected to be last. And I was wholly content with that. But I don't think it's in Ed's DNA to be last. And I don't think it's all three of us' DNA. So it's just kind of like, maybe a little faster. And the farther you get across, the more comfortable you are pushing these cars. And I learned that in the 2904, is that if it made it halfway, odds are it's going to make it the rest of the way. We might as well hammer it home. And boy, did we hammer it home. You know, when you travel with Ed, you have some special things that happen. And one of them was we came in early in the morning. Ed makes a phone call. He's all like, yeah, we're coming in. Like, you give us a little bit of escort. And sure enough, a police officer, when we get off the freeway, appears ahead of us and leads us in down to the Portofino Hotel and flashes his lights maybe a couple of times across a couple of intersections. I'm not sure how that fits into the police code of that certain town, but I appreciate that officer's efforts. And we came in our chic outfits, in our Rolls Royce, led in by a police escort into the Portofino. Truly my favorite entrance and finish ever of any of the cannonballs I've ever done.
This month of VINwiki content is brought to you by Bridgestone, and the most exciting news out of Bridgestone is the new release of their Turanza Prestige tire. It is their flagship Grand Touring tire, targeting luxury SUVs, crossovers, and sedans, like a Mercedes S-Class or a BMW X7. And this gives you all the whisper quiet ride that you want in a high-end luxury experience, as well as the wet and dry weather performance that we love from Bridgestone. And you'll get some of the greatest longevity they've ever had on street tires, 70,000 mile limited warranty. So we love Bridgestone for their sports car and supercar tires in the Potenza range. Of course, the Dueler AT Ascent that I've got on my Porsche Cayenne, I absolutely love. But whatever you're looking to find tires for, Bridgestone has something great. So check them out now at the link in the description below to learn more about the Bridgestone family of tires.